Hello, I'm Alex Davies of Wealth Club. Today I'm with Andrew Grahame, founder of The Cook and the Thief. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Alex.
So tell me, what is The Cook and Thief?
So we've been described as Deliveroo on steroids. Essentially, we're the next generation of home food delivery. We've developed a system that allows customers for the first time ever to have restaurant quality food at home, hot, piping hot, crispy and in beautiful condition.
So why is it such an opportunity?
This market, Mintel call it the ready-made meal home delivery market, has seen an explosion in growth. It's now worth, they say, 83 billion worldwide. I think in 2017 it was worth 6.2 billion in the UK alone. It's dominated by some of the biggest tech giants in the world, from Uber Eats to Deliveroo, Just Eat, and Amazon restaurants are now dabbling in the market as well. Phenomenally big market, but the big problem that those tech giants haven't been able to crack is, how do we ensure that you can get restaurant quality food at home and not just fast food that is deteriorated en route? And the biggest problem lies because the better chefs and restaurants, those that are what I would call brand led, they care about the dish and what it looks like and the quality when it arrives, just aren't prepared to compromise their brand by putting food into an aluminium or plastic box, bounce around on the back of a scooter, getting colder and soggier, and have it slopped back out when it arrives. So what they want, the swathe, huge swathe of restaurants across the world, not just in London, what they would love is the ability to have their brand protected, and what the consumer wants is the ability to have the food that's commensurate with the restaurant. Because they are effectively, all of these delivery businesses, the consumer's paying the same prices in the restaurant, but getting a lower quality result.
Before we go into more details about the business, what's your background?
So I've started and exited a number of businesses. In 2000, I set up a company called the Leisure Pass Group, where we created the London Pass, New York Pass, Paris Pass, Berlin Pass, which we sold as a management buyout actually to Primary Capital for 35 million. I'm also the co-founder of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, now in its 15th year. We've just done a big raise with Crowdcube, a £7 million raise, and a business that's doing very well, 3 offices around the world and over 70 staff here in Chiswick. So I would say I'm used to and enjoy the world of business startups.
And where are you with the business at this moment?
Well, excitingly, we've spent the last 3 or 4 years building the business and its various components, and we've done all the heavy lifting, and actually now we're ready to go. So
what are those heavy components? What
in the most important element of this business, having spoken and worked with a number of chefs, high-end chefs and restaurateurs, was the tech that enables us to protect the food. Right. And that was the starting point, really. And that is a number of components. That is tableware, packaging, the back box that's on the back of the scooter that contains stabilization, humidity control and heat control elements. That part of the business, which is where you can have, and we are looking at ensuring we've got patent protected elements of that technology, enables us to create the IP, the value in the business. So we have that in place, and we're making, continuing to make a number of deliveries to customers and potential investors in the business, and having them blown away by the results of the food and the meals that arrive.
So you're operational, or is this a test operational?
So the way to be operational is to build out the team. And that's the final component, and that's the reason we're doing the raise at the moment, to build out a team so that we can utilise what we have, the software, the hardware. We have a fleet of motorbikes in our warehouse down in over the river in Battersea. So we are essentially ready to go.
So you say you're looking for a team. What sort of people are you looking for? What are they going to do?
Well, first and foremost, we need an operator. My background and my skill set, I suppose, is I am a big picture thinker, a visionary, very brand and marketing led, very relationship led. In order to ensure that this brand succeeds, it's going to be what happens behind the scenes. The service that we want for our customers has to be delivered by an operational team that is second to none. So first and foremost, it's the COO. The gentleman that I'm looking to bring on board, a guy called Charles Tugendhat, has extensive operational background, working for British Airways, the BBC. He even worked in the music industry, and he will be the first hire that will then build out the team. People like marketing director, restaurant partnership manager, the call centre, the back end team, shift managers, that sort of thing. So having that team in place will enable us to fundamentally launch the business.
And how many people you need to get started?
In the first instance, for soft launch, a minimum of 5.
Yeah. And where are you launching? London, or what's happening?
So London is obviously the most potent city in the UK, so that's where we're going to be able to launch and scale thereafter, whether it be secondary cities in the UK or internationally.
Basically what you're offering is delivery for high-end restaurants. Is there anything else?
Well, I think that it's about the spectrum. You see, what we did well at Mr. and Mrs. Smith was we enabled people to have a £1,000 a night spa, right, but they could also have an £80 a night pub. But you would know that that was a Smith pub or a Smith spa. And I think where we are in the food, certainly in the food delivery business at the moment, is there is an enormous spectrum of chefs and restaurateurs that value their brand but aren't being serviced. So it could be a high-end dirty burger at £10, or it could be a 3 Michelin star meal. Where the current crop of delivery businesses fail is that their customers can only go from fast comfort food to maybe a little bit of the mid-market. They can't go any further, and what we're offering is the ability to do the full span and offer the best in class.
So have you got relationships with all these restaurants?
Absolutely, and interestingly, one of my early concerns was how do we engage those restaurants and those chefs that are so brand-led? What we've discovered is that the market at the moment means that with the challenges they're having, whether it be Brexit, whether it be staff shortages, whether it be rate hikes, the challenges means that those restaurants are crying out to be able to take part in this delivery revolution, but are too nervous about how they compromise their brand. So taking on restaurants, we've engaged over 40 already. Taking on restaurants is actually proving very simple, as long as we can show that we can protect their brand by protecting their food and their dishes.
So you get this up and running in London, it's successful. Can you roll it out around the country?
Initially, when I first conceived the idea, I saw this as an opportunity to expand into foodie metropolitan international cities. So we looked at New York and Paris and Barcelona and Tokyo and Dubai and the like. What's happened more recently, which is a very, very exciting development for the business, and it was actually spearheaded by the other delivery businesses, and that is what's called dark kitchens or virtual restaurants. Because what happened with Deliveroo and Uber is that were starting to have capacity issues, and they figured, well, okay, if we can take the kitchen into the areas of dense population demographics that are right for us, then potentially we can, if it's a fast food restaurant serving tacos or pizzas, we can alleviate the capacity issues. Now, we don't have capacity issues with most of our restaurants because as they become more premium, there's less concerns, the kitchens can cope. But where there is a challenge is as you come further into the suburbs, your density of restaurants goes down, but your density of customer goes up. So can you take the restaurant to the customer? And this is where the dark kitchens or the virtual restaurants come in. And that's very exciting for the chefs, because once you talk about opening virtual restaurants in Manchester or Liverpool or Leeds or Edinburgh, what you're achieving is rapid expansion in the UK, and not just internationally, but also, and more importantly, you're taking their brand nationally, and when people come back to London, you're driving footfall back to the restaurants, which they find very exciting, and it gives opportunity for those outside the country to experience some of the best chefs and restaurants anywhere in the world.
So are there any additional revenue streams?
Yes, and I think this is something that for me I focus quite heavily on. When we created Mr. and Mrs. Smith, it was about the ecosystem, all the various different revenue streams that could build the brand. And with the Cook and Thief, it's very, very similar. So you have the standard, what I would call on-demand market, which is where people are sitting at home and they go, well, in the next hour I would like this meal. And that's what Deliveroo and Uber Eats and the like service. But with this end of the market and this opportunity goes further than that. So for instance, an untapped area is dinner parties. At the moment, if you want a dinner party, you cook it yourself, or the prep, or you buy all the ingredients, or you have a private chef. With and you're not about to order from Nando's to have it and your friends delivered and invite your friends around for a dinner party. Whereas if you can have a very high-end restaurant and know that Michelin is cooking for you tonight, you'll invite your friends around. And that is an enormously lucrative end of the market that is utterly untapped. The second we've talked about, which is the dark kitchens, as an opportunity to scale and an opportunity to improve profit margins, but also create an opportunity for the consumer to experience these fabulous chefs and restaurants. It's second to none. The third is licensing. We did this with the Leisure Pass Group. There are probably cities around the world that we may not want to necessarily go for initially. And it could be some of the smaller cities in Europe, Copenhagen, Prague, Lille, Frankfurt. The licensing opportunity, because we have all the software, all the hardware, and everything in place, we're able to offer a potential catering company, for instance, an opportunity to set up a similar operation to the Cook and Thief, and potentially even white label that all around the world. And that is, those three in themselves present very good additional revenue streams over and above the on-demand.
So what could go wrong?
I think most of the challenges have already been addressed. So ensuring that the delivery and the meal when it arrives is in fantastic condition. We were worried about riders, but now I think there's 40,000 delivery riders in London. Having the cream of the crop is actually quite less challenging now than when we first conceived the idea. And I think knowing that there are a number of restaurants clamouring to join the Cook and Thief, those parts and those elements are now covered. I suppose if you look at the two drivers for this business, one is the order value, the size of the order. Could that be suppressed? Could the Brexit effect have an effect on the level that people want to order at? And I think that's highly possible. It could suppress it, but I think we are ensuring that we've got a very, very low order value in our assumptions. In fact, we based it on a company called Room Service that started in 1993 before Deliveroo, and their average order value was £60. And that was 5 years ago, and that's what we based it on. So I suspect the order value is not an issue. And the second challenge is delivery time. Everybody wants to ensure that you can deliver as quickly as possible. And I think the ultimate test of that is if you've got a decent order value, you don't have to deliver quite so fast. But also the tech that we've developed enables our riders to go at a decent speed without damaging the food. So I think those two areas are covered, but if there's two potential risks, it would be them.
You mentioned Room Service. Do they still exist, and do you have any competition?
Well, of course, the competition would be. There's no competition in the upper end of the market, and that's why this is such a fantastic opportunity. The competition doesn't exist. It exists in the mid market, but I think that's presented more of an opportunity than anything else, because consumers are now aware that you can get restaurant food at home. You don't have to just have Chinese or Indian. You can get a spread of different cuisines. And I think that's opened up the market and opened up consumer behaviour to say, it's Monday night, I'm not going anywhere, what can I order in? I don't want to cook.
And Room Service? Yeah,
so Room Service were bought out, I believe, in 2015. They were failing through lack of technology, lack of investment, lack of brand, lack of packaging, like many of the companies that fell by the wayside when Uber Eats and Deliveroo came into the marketplace. And everybody was only ever trying to attack the low and mid market, which is the commodity end of the market, trying to find the space now in this premium end of the market is where the excitement lies.
And how are you going to market it?
The customer acquisition is really exciting for me. When I started Mr. and Mrs. Smith, social media didn't exist, for instance, and we tried to do a viral campaign. We had bill posters scattered around London with "Who are Mr. and Mrs. Smith?" and that enabled us to get a viral campaign and build up our database. These days, we can target in London alone over 750,000 foodies, for want of a better term, through food influencers alone. In fact, food porn, as it's been called, is more popular than selfies on Instagram. And so these days, the targeting of and that customer acquisition is far easier, but also you're also benefiting from the chefs, the restaurateurs, and the restaurants themselves have large followings, certainly at the premium end of the market. So chefs have have their Instagram account, and they have their Twitter followers, and they have email addresses for people that have booked with them. And so being able to have a almost free, accessible channel through the restaurants themselves means that our acquisition program is second to none.
And isn't it just a danger that someone like Deliveroo just suddenly starts doing high end?
This is something that we've deliberated quite a lot, and the great thing is it's not really a worry. These VC-backed, private equity-backed businesses are not in the position to start breaking patents and compromising patents. Their choice would be, do we build an R&D team and build out the tech to try and rival the cook and thief because they have the tech already in place, or do we buy them? And they're an acquisitive bunch. They have deep pockets with lots of a good balance sheet. If they wanted to buy us, they'd do that before they would start breaking patents.
But do you think the consumers will actually care about the R&D and the good tech, etc.? Don't they just want a nice meal delivered to
them? But the two things that are givens in this business, that the restaurants, the brand-led restaurants, will not put at the moment they're faced with when they have a deal with, if they want to deal with Uber Eats or Deliveroo or whoever, they have to buy their own source and purchase their own packaging. And the packaging out there is limited. It's aluminium, it's plastic, it's bland cardboard boxes. So they know from the outset that their food is not going to arrive as it does in the restaurant. And so for us to come along and say, okay, well, we can do it, we can have it commensurate with it, hot, crispy and looking great, means that those branded restaurants won't have a choice to go anywhere else. But you can only do that if you have the tech and have built out the tech, and these other companies haven't as yet. And I'm not saying they won't, but in order to achieve what we've achieved, they're more likely to buy us than go against us.
So what's special about your packaging?
So we've gone from the starting point, which is the tableware. At the moment, chefs are having to put their food, as I said, into these quite grim old school boxes, whether it be metal or plastic or whatever. So we've developed a whole range of tableware: side plates, main plates, bowls, dishes, soup bowls, sauce pots, a whole range. But what's unique about it is that it's done on a substance called bagasse. And bagasse is a world-renowned food-safe material, highly sustainable because it's a byproduct of sugar. So the sugarcane leaf is pulped into create bagasse. And so it also means it's compostable. You know, one of the issues that a lot of these certainly takeaway, which is the takeaway industry in the UK is worth 10 billion. But imagine this low-end packaging is not exactly sustainable. If it's plastic and metal, it's not recyclable, and it's certainly not compostable. And so you have, in the issues today, when we're talking about single-use plastics, it's a real problem for people. So what we've created is a whole tableware range that if you threw it away in your compost heap, it'd be gone in 12 days. And so you can throw that in the bin, you can throw it away knowing it's going to degrade and go back into the earth and be compostable and biodegradable. And that is really important. So all of our packaging, so the next stage is that you've got the tableware, then you've got the cartons that it comes in, they're all recyclable and insulated. And so we've developed a whole range that allows chefs to know that their brand, whatever happens, and their dishes are protected.
And the likely return for investors? Clearly it's not guaranteed, but
it never is. You know, when I set out a business, I always look for a minimum 10 times return. This business is exceptionally cash positive, and we've looked at conservative figures, and I guess if we get to our 5 years and we get to the EBITDA that we had proposed, you're looking in the region of 20 to 30 times your money back.
You are looking to raise in the region of 750,000, £1 million. Have you invested yourself in the business, and if so, how much?
I have invested myself. Initially, I decided that was the best way to get this business off the ground and to ensure that future investors will have the comfort that I've got skin in the game. So I've invested 300,000. We did a subsequent raise to build out all the tech in 2015. That was the seed round, if you like. We raised 625,000, and now this is the raise that we believe will get us to cash flow break even. We're very confident about that. This is a cash generative business. We get paid, then we pay the restaurants. And I would suspect that's the case. If we do want to scale rapidly and we want to another round further down the line, we're not ruling that out.
Very good. So I want to put some money into an EIS this year. Why should I invest it with you?
Well, I think The opportunity speaks for itself. An untapped market, very exciting market, highly scalable, both UK and internationally. There is no doubt about the size of the market and the players involved, but there's also no doubt about the challenge that this market has in terms of restaurant quality food just not being available. So the opportunity is enormous, and we've as a business addressed, I think, all the market issues and the challenges for the business to be presented with an opportunity where we've now done all the heavy lifting, which we discussed. The IP is in the business, so there's value there. This is not a wing and a prayer. If we sold the business tomorrow, there is inherent value within the tech that we've created. And having been now in a position to launch, I think that we're in an excellent position to be able to return our investors a good return.
Andrew Grahame, the cook and the thief, thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex.
Cheers, thank you.